The Chancery era is technically over, but the aftermath still lingers. While David Storch awaits the green light from the English Football League, Hillsborough is living through a quiet countdown to a new chapter in League One. This is the ratification vacuum where decisions are imagined but not yet actionable, and where urgency collides with bureaucracy. Arise Capital have already been named preferred bidder, yet control of the club remains locked behind regulatory approval. Since October, financial collapse has dictated the rhythm of the institution, leaving staff, players, and supporters suspended between relief and uncertainty. The stands feel lighter without Dafon Chancery's presence, but the operational reality is harsher. Henrik Pedersen must prepare a relegated squad without clarity on budgets, contracts, or recruitment authority. Every delayed approval from the EFL is not just administration, it is lost preparation time for a season that will not wait. Inside this uncertainty, Arise Capital's restructuring is already taking shape. Storch understands that ownership alone does not rebuild a football club, structure does. The search for a CEO is not cosmetic, it reflects a clear leadership vacuum at the top. Running a club of this scale, with its history and emotional weight, requires experience within English football, not just financial expertise. This is where strategy becomes discipline. Rather than tearing everything down, there is a deliberate decision to preserve certain technical pillars. Kevin Biadell remains in place as head of recruitment, a survivor of multiple regimes, now tasked with rebuilding a squad depleted by restrictions and forced exits. It signals something important. Arise Capital are not chasing a dramatic reset, but a controlled rebuild, where continuity in recruitment helps offset instability during the ownership transition. At the center of this recalibration sits David Storch and the wider Arise Capital project, with early operational signals already emerging through reporting from Alan Nixon. The CEO search is active, not theoretical, laying the first foundation of a new administrative structure before the takeover is even finalized. Alongside that, Biadell's retention becomes more than a staffing decision, it becomes a bridge between the club's fractured past and its intended future. And then there is the emotional factor that no financial model can fully measure. Henrik Pedersen has cautiously reopened the conversation around Barry Bannon, the symbolic heartbeat of the past decade at Hillsborough. His January move to Millwall FC was not tactical, but financial necessity. Now, his name returns not as a promise, but as a possibility tied directly to timing. Without financial control, sentiment cannot be acted upon. With it, Bannon becomes more than a player, he becomes a statement of intent. Pedersen's current reality, however, is grounded in logistics rather than emotion. Preparing for League One demands clarity that he simply does not yet have. Transfer planning continues behind the scenes, but under the shadow of potential EFL restrictions that may outlast the ownership transition. This creates a fragmented process where scouting, budgeting, and negotiations cannot fully align. The manager's refusal to name targets is not secrecy, it is necessity. In this context, a potential return for Bannon would carry significance beyond tactics. It would represent a cultural reset, a signal to a disillusioned fan base that rebuilding identity at Hillsborough is more than just corporate messaging. At the same time, Arise Capital's approach to the summer of 2026 is expected to reflect controlled ambition, using inherited limitations as an opportunity to reshape the squad around a new standard of accountability. This is where the real tension of the project emerges. Rebuilding a football club is never just about recruitment or results, it is about sequencing decisions that define identity. So the question becomes unavoidable. Should David Storch prioritize the immediate emotional reconnection of bringing Barry Bannon back, or should the focus remain on appointing an elite CEO capable of delivering long-term stability? In other words, what matters more in this moment of transition, nostalgia, or structure?